It was a very hot day. And Mullah Nasruddin came to sit under a huge and majestic walnut tree to rest. He took off his turban to feel the cool breeze that was blowing through its branches. But as he was sitting there, he noticed not too far away there was a vine trailing across the ground with very large pumpkins attached. So he began to muse and ponder and speculate. He said, God, why would you have this large and magnificent tree growing walnuts and have that thin, delicate vine growing large pumpkins? And then all of a sudden, a walnut dropped from the branches above him and landed on his bald head. He looked up to the sky and said, "Oh God, forgive me for doubting your wisdom. I cannot even imagine what would have happened if the pumpkin had landed on my head." Fatima was a young and beautiful girl. She was the daughter of a spinner, a rich spinner. They lived in the far west, and flax, and that which was made from flax, was very sought after. But one day, her father said to her, "We're going to take a journey, and as we travel, there is a possibility that you may be able to find a handsome, young, suitable man to marry." So they set out on their travels, and their travels took them round to a number of islands. And of course, Fatima was totally preoccupied with the thought of finding this handsome young beau that would sweep her off her feet, and they would be married and live happily ever after. And then disaster fell. The boat in which they were traveling hit a great storm and sank. All was lost, and Fatima found herself washed up on a faraway beach, an unknown place, with hardly a memory, a consciousness of what it was that had transpired before. But very fortunately, she was found by her family, who were poor, and they were weavers, but they took her in, they fed her and cared for her, and they also taught her the ways of weaving. She became quite content in her new life, almost forgetting totally that there was a life before that, or even a disaster that beset her. But then one day, as she was walking along the beach, a group of slave traders came along. They'd been gathering people, and a young and beautiful girl would bring a good price in the marketplace. So Fatima was scooped up, taken away, and brought to the place where people were put for sale. Now, she was young and beautiful, but the day on which the sale took place, there were not too many people in the market area. But there was a man who needed a handmaiden for his wife, and in seeing the pitiful state of Fatima, he decided to buy her. A kind man, thinking that he could give her a better life and that his wife would have a handmaiden to care for her. So he bought Fatima. But when he returned to his home, he was a mast maker. He worked in wood. He found that the ships that carried his wood had foundered, and he had lost everything. He could not afford any longer to hire people. So he, his wife, and Fatima had to undertake the difficult task of making masks out of the logs. But Fatima was a very good worker. She worked so hard and diligently that the mast maker gave her her freedom, and she even became a partner in the work that they did. One day, the mast maker said to Fatima, "I want you to go to Java and take our masts and sell them for a good price." So Fatima again embarked on a sea voyage with the large masts to sell. But a typhoon hit, and the ship sank once again. And again, Fatima found herself washed up on a foreign shore. Now, she thought to herself, 3 times in my life, 3 times, disaster has befallen me. What fate is this? But as it happened, Fatima had been washed up on the shores of the great land of China. And it so happened that in that land, for many, many decades, there had been a legend, a myth. Maybe it started in far times before, when a traveler had been to the Far East. But that legend was that someone would come. In fact, they were specific. A woman would come who would be able to make a tent for the emperor. Now, there had been a succession of emperors over these decades, but no tent maker had come to their shores. But in each generation, messengers had been sent out by the emperor to seek, perhaps, that being who was going to make the tent for the emperor. So it was on such an occasion as this that Fatima was washed up on the shore, just at a time when the heralds were out, renewing their seeking for this being. And of course, when the townspeople saw this creature washed up on the shore, a foreigner, they immediately found someone who could translate for them and told her that she had to be taken to the presence of the emperor. And so she was. And when she was in the presence of the emperor, she was asked, "Can you make a tent?" And she said, "Well, I think so." And so the task was given to her. First of all, she asked, "Do you have rope?" In China, no one knew how to make rope. But she remembered what she had learned from early childhood, how to be that maker of the thread from the flax. So she gathered together the material and she was able to make stout rope. And then she asked, "Do you have cloth, sailing cloth?" No, no one knew how to make sailing cloth. But Fatima remembered. She remembered how to weave. So with the help and even teaching, she was able to make stout sailing cloth. And then she asked, "Well, a mast, we need a mast." But again, no one in China knew how to make a mast, a tent pole. But of course, she had already learned this art well. So she set to and made the mast. But then the tent. How to make a tent? She'd seen tents. And so she had to bring forth from herself the way to construct a tent. And so she did. She built a tent for the emperor of the day. Of course, we know the end of this story. The emperor rewarded her with anything that she would desire. And of course, as the end of these stories go, she found that handsome young man, married and lived happily ever after. We can ask ourselves, what is the meaning of this story? But specifically, it's in order to allow us perhaps to have an understanding of where it is we find ourselves when our mind no longer has any place to rest on the three levels of existence. For example, at the egoic level, I am Joe Blow and I am a scientist. On that occult level, I am spirit. I am of the ethos. Or at that sublime level, oh, everything is all right because God is the door. Where are we? Where do we find ourselves when our mind, because it's been dismantled, the conditioning that creates mind has been removed, so that it has nowhere to rest? Like Fatima, we've been washed up on those shores. We're still being washed up on those shores. But why is it different now? Why do we not bemoan our fate? Woe is me, why does disaster always befall me? And yet now the mind has no need to come back to a place to rationalize this. Where are we then? What is this place? And how does this story bring light or understanding where it is that we are. A little clue was given the other day, again in the story of Nasruddin, when he was sitting backwards on his donkey as he rode into town. And people asked him, "Why are you facing backwards on your donkey?" And he said, "Well, my donkey knows where it's going, but I need to know where I'm being." How do we answer this question? Of course we can't, because there is no answer. But we do need to know where we are, what this place is. This is the only way we can be comfortable in resting on nothing, having no foundation, stepping out into each moment, into the void, into the emptiness, not knowing where our foot is going to land, what reality is going to be there for us. And so faith, trust, hope, and all those other words that are relative to the levels of life no longer have meaning for us. But it is liberation. It is freedom. Because in it, we're alive every moment. Intensely, vital, alert, alive.